to like figure out a way to not be shocked. Robert, it feels terrible. I even put lotion on my hands. I'm constantly being shocked. Hello, my name is Molly and I am the host of A Homespun House. I am greeting you here from my studio here in Leipzig, Germany, where I work and I live with my family. And I am the creator behind A Homespun House. I hand dye yarns, create kits, and lots of fun different boxes and things for you all to play around with. I have been doing so much fun creating in the studio these last couple of weeks. I think it all just kind of started with quite a lot of winter inspiration, to be honest. I absolutely love the snow and I love winter as long as there is snow. Otherwise, I'm not the hugest fan of winter, but if there is snow, winter desperately has my heart. I love being out in the snow, hearing the crunch beneath my feet, watching my children go sledding, pretty much be on the sled with them. I think each time that we went sledding this past winter, I was not watching from atop the hill. I was going down the hill and walking up, sometimes pulling my children up on the sled behind me. We love to go for walks and pull the kids behind the sled while we go for long walks here in Germany. And so with that snow, we haven't had a snow like this, I believe, since 1978 here in Leipzig. And it just brought me so much creative inspiration. I think because I was spending my days outside in the fresh air, or my evenings rather, or my weekends, and then I would come into the studio and feel really full of inspiration. And so being that we opened up our studio half of a year ago, pretty much here, I've really been trying to create a brand new color palette. We've moved the studio, I think, 4 times now, 2 different studios in Germany. Then we had a studio in America, and now we've reopened a studio and completely recreated all of the colorways that we have here for A Homespun House. So I've been really trying over this past half year to add a lot of new colors, new minis sets, new kits, and then just new standard colors and tonals and speckles to the shop. And so that winter really brought that super cozy time into the studio. I would come in and light candles and play a bit of music and head into the studio and just have a color palette in my mind and really be able to have fun with color. And I put a lot of that energy into creating lots and lots of one-of-a-kind mini sets. So if you head on over to the shop, you are going to see a lot of 10-gram minis, 20-gram minis, only a few 50-gram mini sets, but I would really love to be adding more 50s sets to the shop. You can buy 50s on their own in any tonal colorway that you would like, but I've really been enjoying just creating new one-of-a-kind sets for the shop, and that's where I've been putting a lot of my energy lately. And now that it's starting to warm up, it's really funny. We had weathers that were minus 17 Celsius, which is like 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and now it's coming up to 18 degrees Celsius, which is around 60 degrees Fahrenheit in a span of 5 days. So now that the sun is peeking through my windows right over here, I'm starting to have a desire to dye some light and springy colorways, some mini sets. I'll probably be adding some more just speckles to the shop. I have some new tonals that I would love to add that I've been playing around with and adding to knitting designs. And so that's been a lot of fun. I have been knitting a lot of socks lately. So this first pair of socks that I'm going to show you, they look pretty worn because I finished them shortly after I filmed last week, and my daughter has been wearing them and then washing them and then wearing them and washing them. I think my husband is arriving at the studio and Polly's our Chihuahua. She hears someone at the door and it's making her a little bit uncomfortable, like who is trying to come into our studio here. These are the Jelly Roll socks. We have kits for this exact sock in the shop right now. And I knit this using our Oracle colorway, which is beautiful. And then up here I have Syrah, which is a 100 gram speckled that we have in the shop right now. At the heel, I have Oracle and Barley. And then at this section here, I have Fern, which is a new tonal that's not in the shop right now, but it should be added this week. And then at the foot, which it's really hard to see the color because there was a day where Elodie couldn't find, Elodie is the daughter that I knit these for. She couldn't find her house shoes at school, so she had to walk around all day in her socks. So these got very grubby and I'm having a hard time getting that. It's almost crusty-like, to be honest. So if any of you have tips on how to get that out of your sock, I had these soaking for 24 hours. They're still damp. I can't get it out. So maybe I just need to let them soak for a lot longer. But I would love advice on how to get, it just has to be some sort of thick dirt. And I don't want to scrub these too much as I don't want to felt them. It's non-superwash yarn, but it is still possible to felt non-superwash yarn if you put enough friction on it. So this is the Lucky colorway. It's quite a lot more blue than this, but because of the dirt that's in here, it somehow looks green. This is such a fun pattern to knit. I'm on my second pair and I'm already making plans for knitting a third pair for my youngest daughter. She has asked for a pair of Jelly Roll socks. The second pair of these socks that I'm knitting, I have in one of my mini market baskets. I don't sell these in the shop anymore, but I love these so much. So Elodie has always been a fan of, my chair is swiveling. My husband put new wheels on my chair so that it doesn't scuff the floor, and we've come to realize that the floor is not gerade here. So I slowly start to slip away. She has always loved blue, and she has just recently started adoring greens. And so she asked me if I could knit her a pair of green Jelly Roll socks. So here at the top is that Fern colorway that I spoke about. And then I did the main sock in Beltane. I had about 50 grams left of this colorway. It was a colorway that I dyed for the shop when we were living in America. And this colorway will be offered in kit form. It's not a colorway that I plan on bringing back to the shop. It will only be available as a 50 gram skein for the Jelly Roll kit. So we have Beltane here. And then here we have Matcha as this little color work section. And then we have Barbie for the heel. Doesn't that just look beautiful? And then Ash for the toe. So this is Elodie's Jelly Roll sock, the first one. And then we have the second one. I've already begun the cuff. Well, I've finished it. I've done the second one. And then I did the heel for this one in Beltane again with Matcha. And then I'm going to do the center of her foot with Barbie. And then I'll do the toe again with the Ash. So the only thing that will be different is the cuff, and the center of the foot will be swapped. And Elodie loves these. Even though I only had one finished yesterday when she came home from school, she just walked around with this sock on. So these have been such a joy to knit. I can't remember what size of needle these call for, but I'm knitting mine on a 2mm, so an American size 0, and I'm using Haya sharps. I have not mentioned, I believe, on any episode of A Homespun House, but we are selling Haya sharp needles in the shop. They are my absolute favorite needle. We have double points, we have 9-inch circulars, we have pretty much all of the interchangeable tips and cables that you could want. We have interchangeable sock sets that you can buy, and we have interchangeable sets ranging from small sizes to an entire set of interchangeable needles. Haya sharps are as I mentioned, my absolute favorite. I really enjoy using them. And 9-inch circulars have been people have been talking about them, it seems, for the last 2 years. Let me just grab a cup of coffee. A cup and a sip in my Monty Potts cup. So we are now selling also Monty pottery, and she is just fantastic. We have 9 different styles of mugs. These ones are almost sold out. This is the speckled half mug, and she just has so many different styles of mugs. We have candlesticks, we have tapas, plates, which I enjoy and use mine every day. I have soap trays, and they're just absolutely beautiful. So I hope that those of you who love handmade pottery are excited to get some in your orders, and I've definitely been sending quite a bit of it out. We have a nice stock of the different styles, and I just enjoy sitting at my workspace and looking at all of the beautiful things that we've started selling in the shop. We sell quite a bit of Leine publications. We have some Tuft Woolens products. We have Joka Kerzen, so a lot of handmade candles, pottery, just a lot of fun things, and we have more things coming in as time goes on. All right, so I am definitely on a sock kick, and I have been knitting a lot of socks. That's pretty much all that I've been knitting, to be honest. So I have finished my Saturday morning socks. I think I showed these finished socks last episode. I am so sorry for the yellow lighting, but it is very early in the morning. And as I said, my window is over here and I have warm lighting above me. But here we have Barbie. This beautiful color in between is Comfort. This really light one here is Whale Belly. I called it Tulle Skirt before, but this is our Whale Belly colorway. And then I used Barbie again for the top. So this requires 2 10-gram minis, a 20-gram mini, and a 50-gram if you plan on knitting an American size 10 or smaller, or a European size 41 or smaller. Otherwise, you'll need a 100-gram skein of your main color. So I knit this colorway, and then I decided, so these haven't been blocked yet, and color work, especially if it's superwash yarn, it really changes as it's blocked. My Grandma Sue has never blocked her knitting, and she's knit lots of color work. I can remember when this concept of blocking started coming out years ago. Gosh, it had to have been 20 years ago. My grandma just found it the most strange thing ever. And I remember every time when we would go into a knitting store and they would talk about blocking, she would always have to say, I've been knitting for this many years and I've never blocked my color work. I knit color work every day and I've never blocked it. Just so funny. So anyway, this is knit out of Jello. This is where you would need that 20-gram skein of yarn. So this is knit out of Jello. This is where you would need that 20-gram skein of yarn. And then we have denim here. This is a colorway that isn't in the shop now. You would need 10 grams for this bit. And then fern, which is that same green that I'm using in Adodi's new pair of Jelly Roll socks. So I really love this combination, just the way that it pops. And the main sock is knit in antique. So I have one of those knit, and I have the second one cast on. I'm just about to start the color work now after the cuff. And I'm using 9-inch circulars for these. So I love 9-inch circulars for color work, whether you're doing it on a sock or a sleeve. It just makes it so much more effortless to knit the floats, and I think especially as you're learning, it makes it a lot easier. I know when I've tried to knit socks on DPNs, double pointed needles, I always have had a problem doing color work at the joins, and this has really been a life changer for me with color work in mittens, socks, and sleeves, like I said. So it's not like a sweater where you're knitting the body of the sweater. Are you staring at me?
Just looking. You
I'm enjoying these. And this pattern will come out soon. I'm not even going to say a day because last week I said Friday. It's Thursday, a week later, 2 weeks later almost, and the pattern still is not out. I just have to photograph it. And that's always what holds me up with pattern writing and putting patterns out. So the final thing that I am working on is a 5th pair of socks. And these are for Robert, who just came into the studio. I am knitting these out of the Homespun House colorway, the darkening. I'm using our plump merino base. Both of the pairs of colorwork socks I'm knitting using the soft sock base. Just a heads up on that. So this is the darkening. I love these little bright flashes in here. That's my coffee machine turning off. No. And I am knitting his socks with Tegan as a cuff. And just like the last pair of socks that I knit him out of Syrah and Lingonberry, I'm doing the cuff pretty long. These are not using our gold stellina, as I said, the plump merino. And I've finished his cuff. I have finished the heel. I've really started to do a heel flap and gusset on all of my socks just within the last year. I had quite a bit of a time where I was knitting the Fish Lips Kiss heel quite religiously, and it's such an easy, mindless heel to knit. You don't have those gusset decreases, and it makes it very simple to do color work and any sort of patterning around the heel. But Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady just spoke about this in her new podcast. It just doesn't fit that well. It just kind of slides all around my foot. I know she mentioned that happens to her as well. And I personally like the way a heel flap and gusset looks better. Anyway, and it's really not that hard. It just requires a little bit more time until you can get to the plain knitting. If you're doing a plain sock and nothing that's textured. But anyway, so I'm really, really enjoying these. It's so fun to work with different bases of yarn, whether it's our plump merino, soft sock, cashmere, gold stellina for socks, because it feels so different. I haven't worked with a plump merino base in quite some time, and it's just so different from the soft sock. I feel like these will probably be a bit more hard wearing because they have a bit tighter of a twist. And maybe I need to knit some for myself to see how that wears. One final thing, and you guys have probably been eyeing it while I've been sitting here chatting, and that is my balloon cardigan by Petite Knits. I'm wearing it. I finished it. I think this must have taken 2 weeks for me to knit. I knit the medium size. I knit it using stockinette stitch instead of garter stitch. I did not knit the sleeve separately. I picked up around the top of the sleeve and then just knit down with 20 stitches less than called for. I did mention that, and I still have quite a sizable sleeve, as you can see here. I can't imagine if I had had 20 more stitches on my arm. I think that would have just been too ridiculous for me. I wouldn't have been able to properly move. So I love this. It is a longer cardigan. It goes just below my booty, and I love it. It's nice because I'm always so chilly, and I knit this using a DK weight yarn. It calls for a worsted weight yarn, but I used our non-superwash DK along with our Surrey alpaca, which is so soft in our antique colorway. It's one of my favorites. So I love this. I've been wearing it a lot. I've been keeping it in the studio on my chair for when I'm not in the dye studio and when I'm packaging orders or just doing stuff outside of the dye studio where I might be a little bit more cold. And I've been really, really enjoying it. We have some fun things in the shop right now. We have those kits for all of those socks. We have all of those minis sets that I spoke about in the beginning of this episode. And we have some really fun clubs in the shop. We have a March Yarn of the Month Club. You have your choice of fingering weight or DK weight yarn. And then we have our March Minis Skein Club. So that is as well fingering weight or DK weight yarn. If you head on over to our shop and look in our 20 gram minis section, you will probably find our A Homespun House Advent Calendar for 2021. This is the first year that I have started this early dyeing up, preparing, labeling, and beautifying all of your Advents. I would like to spend a lot of time this year on making them very special because I know that in previous years, I've spent half of the year or even less preparing Advents, and I really want to give them a lot of time this year and a lot of attention because I think that they are something that's very, very, very special, and you all look forward to it and get excited about it and maybe love Christmas as much as I do or the holiday season as much as I do. And this year I thought that it was important that I started dyeing and preparing Advents in February. I know that sounds crazy, but they are a lot of work. And I want it to be as joyful as an experience as possible for me who is dyeing it and preparing it and then to ship them out to you. So as always, these are going to be different than last year. I say that every year. I think that just happens with dyeing yarn and evolving and being creative and having a business. Things are always changing. So I hope that you guys love those. I know that it's extremely early for Advents, and but they're there if you would like them. So anyway, I am about to start skeining yarn. I have lots of yarn to skein. I have an entire oven that I have to empty. It's time for me to begin working. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all soon. Bye. Robert, my stool keeps falling to the side. Like I'm sitting here and I keep having to be like